report for approved terms of action, we requested additional information from administration, so no action was taken. Next is a acceptance of donation for Veteran Service Office for Veteran Emergency Assistance. Administrator Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet on page 82, there's a check indicating that we have received a donation at the Veteran Service Office, and that would require a budget amendment. It's been evaluated by Health and Human Services, $3,200 donation for use in our Veterans Office through our Veterans Service Fund, which provides emergency funding to veterans in the event that local nonprofits, there's a gap between what the veteran needs and the nonprofit provided services. So based on your rules, it has to go through the county board process. Again, it was approved at Health and Human Services.
Any questions or motions? Supervisor Lemmer.
I would move to accept the donation for the Veteran Service Office for Veteran Emergency Assistance.
Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Poole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries unanimously. Now for a follow-up, consideration of potential action in light of City of says Historic Preservation Commission consideration of whether to designate Lakeview Professional Plaza, aka Marathon County Home and Hospital Building, as a local Wausau historic landmark. Administrator Leonard.
There's a memo beginning on page 118 of your packet. I did attend, consistent with the action of this committee, did attend the Preservation Committee's meeting asking for 60 days, asking that they defer their recommendation for 60 days. They deferred until the next meeting, which is later this month. So I drafted the memo kind of trying to update the applicable rules. Thank you to Corp Counsel and as well as Deputy Administrator Holman for providing a great deal of this information. But it summarizes the levels of historic designation, the potential disadvantages and advantages with respect to local designation. I think really the other important piece that I sought out is past impacts on Marathon County with respect to historic landmarks. We do have a couple of facilities that we manage that have aspects of them that have been designated as historic landmarks. Primarily those items are managed by Parks, Rec, and Forestry. They've reported really there hasn't been significant challenge with respect to getting that certificate of appropriateness from the city of Wausau. So that is the summary there. I also provided anticipated future work as well as a little bit of past work. As we've said before, we put a great deal of work into that building recently. It is occupied by Marathon County Special Education, and I think there's opportunities for additional consolidation on that site. We do have a planned plumbing and sanitary project that will really, for lack of a better characterization, I think it buttons that building up pretty well. Gave you a brief overview of how you might contest that local designation. That said, based on the information that I've gotten, I really don't see a whole lot of challenges on the horizon. Certainly they could exist. I would just say at that meeting that I attended, I did go and they did defer action on this item for one meeting. There was another piece of property that was being considered that had objected to the designation, but did not appear in person, and the Preservation Committee moved that on to the Plan Commission to designate that. So again, the next process, should it go through the Preservation Committee, goes to the Wausau Plan Commission and ultimately to the City Council.
So if we don't have to take any action, I think the only action is if we objected to the designation, silence would be acceptance. Correct?
If you wanted to express support for the designation, certainly can do that. I just wanted to report back. I did what you asked me to do and what they did as a result.
Supervisor Hart.
Aye. Oh.
I think silence is works best for us because then we don't really have a say one way or another. I think my only quick question is, does any of those upcoming projects, would that be impacted except for, I mean, I don't even know if any of those projects would require us to seek that approval.
Since the emphasis is on the exterior of the building and the surroundings, not likely. The sanitary project could potentially, because the sort of legacy system that's in there, you might want to reroute to the sanitary lines nearby. That being said, you know, I don't foresee that being a problem, especially if you compare the approaches side by side. There's a logic to it. It'll all end up being underground. The exterior would look the same. You know, you're just talking about moving pipes around. The other thing, just from a project's point of view, is that we've done a lot of things to the exterior of the building, but still sort of honored the historical look to it as we've done those. And I think that, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but I think that there's not much that would stand in the way of what we've done or what we plan to do. And my understanding is that their point of view from the designation would be from like current state moving forward. There wouldn't be you need to replace an aluminum window with a historical version of that kind of. So that was the primary concern I had in terms of, can you even find that, or what's the cost implications or efficiencies, things like that. But with that off the table, I think we don't really have any, big issues to raise on it.
That was one of the things I asked, like, hey, we just did a bunch of window replacements. Are you going to tell us the next time we need to go back to single pane? And they said, that's not how that works. And I put in the memo, 98%, according to the Historic Preservations Commission report, this is statewide, but 98%, I think Chris found the statistic of those certificates were granted over a 3-year span. So as long as you do your best, it sounds like from my conversation with the commission, it sounds like they would not have too much of an issue.
And then with that, I think I'd be okay with the historical commission doing whatever they feel is right when it comes to us without our interference. I think we got what we wanted here.
So, no motions, just acceptance? I'm seeing uniform ambivalence, so there's no motion. Yeah. All right, we will move on. Educational presentation, 2024 sales tax revenue update. Administrator Leonard put something in, and you also received something from Wisconsin Counties Association relative to projections for next year on Monday. So.
Right. Short explanation. We look to be just about on track for what we received last year, and the forward analytics report that Chair Robinson referenced puts us their projection for 2024 is slightly higher than where we ended in 23, but not significantly. And their projection for 2025 is about 17.4 million is my recollection of their number. But you've already given me the budget assumption for 2025 budgeting, so I think we're good there. Just wanted to keep you informed of those sales tax receipts to this point. If you have anything you want me to look into relative to sales tax, happy to do that.
Again, we budget conservatively going into the budget with the thought that anything extra is carried over. All right. ARPA discussion. Sam has left.
Sure, I can take really this was just a opportunity to share with you what our general strategy is, and it goes back to a comment Supervisor Marshall made earlier, to ensure to mitigate risk relative to potential federal clawback. Staff, Matt, Chris, myself, Sam, we came up with what we think is a guiding principle. I shared this with Chair Robinson, the idea being we will try to close out or figure out, at least with respect to the projects that are pending, what amount do we feel very, very confident we're going to spend that have been funded with ARPA. Anything above that amount, we will simply come back to you in October with a resolution to reallocate all of those ARPA funds to projects that have been completed in '24 through a budget, through your budget. So we ensure that they're spent. That will essentially negate the need to have previously used, which we've already done. We've already funded them with, whether it's CIP funds or levy funds, they were already funded. Or if we talk about the Regional Forensic Science Center, the social improvement funds, we would fund them with ARPA funds and essentially clear out any remaining ARPA balance. Depending on the way that we did that, you would either have rollover into the capital improvement fund yet this year or next year. But I think that is a prudent, in speaking with my colleagues, a number of other counties have done that. Anyone that had ARPA money remaining, that's the strategy we discussed in our weekly call. I think it makes good sense. We can have that resolution to reallocate those funds in the near future. I don't know, Chris, anything else you want to add on that?
So look for October to be. Go ahead, Supervisor Lumber.
Last time we had to do some sort of resolution for an official transfer to get those monies back. Is that happening soon then?
That would be our plan, is if you like the strategy, we'll go bring that resolution to you to essentially take ARPA funds for projects that we know that we're concerned aren't going to be completed by the 2024 allocation deadline, and reallocate them to projects that we know we're going to have enough expenditure during the ARPA period to get them done, or things that actually are done and have been paid for, but were paid for with other non-ARPA sources, if that makes sense. So yes, short answer, we would bring back a resolution.
It will require approval by the board. So it'll take a 2/3 vote of the board ultimately. Because we're doing a transfer of funds. Unless we do it in the budget, which is a majority, but I think the hope is to do it early so that we've got we don't run into those last minute problems relative to obligations and therefore unintentionally forfeit those dollars. So I think we're trying to get ahead. So that's educational. We have, I apologize, but the agenda is wrong. We have a joint meeting with Portage County Airport, or Portage County Finance Department, which is a standing September meeting. It would have normally been held the following week, which would have been during the WCA conference. So Sam worked with Portage County, and that is on Monday. It is at 5 o'clock. It's at the airport, but there is a virtual component, so you will be able to call in. A significant number of people do call in, and I apologize, but it's one of those required meetings that it's hard to work around. And so Monday at 5 at CWA with the virtual call, and then we would have our regular meeting. We moved that from the following week because we moved the county board up to make it one meeting. We need to meet before that meeting should anything come up. Again, because of the Wisconsin Counties Association meeting on that Tuesday. At that meeting, we have a number of items. We're still waiting on the health insurance. We'll see where that is. We continued, Administrator Leonard and I have not had a chance to work through that, but some of the potential items are the audit follow-up. The discussion we've had, maybe perhaps an update relative to where we are at bug tussle, if we have one. We have the tax delinquent property. Where are we with the NREM and others in educational component? We've got a number of other carryovers, potentially conduit bonding. I want to make sure that staff have time to prepare and make a meaningful discussion, so we're not just dipping into it, but rather diving into it. And then we'll carry over from other things from our strategic plan. But I think we'll have a pretty full agenda again on next Thursday. we'll try to be respectful of the fact that we've got county board that night, but we do have a lot, and I know members want to get us moving on some of these issues. So anything else that you'd like to see us pick up? If not, we're down to the infamous number 9. Moved by Supervisor Hart, seconded by Supervisor Marshall to adjourn. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. We are adjourned. So did you get my message? Yeah. On that item.